A win over Vekic would make history for the Philippines. And that is exactly what just happened in Berlin. Alex Eala walked onto that court carrying 110 million people on her shoulders, and she didn't flinch for a single second. Because here's the thing nobody tells you before a match like this. When you're the first of anything, the first from your country, the first from your region, the first to make people believe that a girl from Quezon City can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best players on the planet, every single point you play is bigger than tennis. Every ace, every break point saved, every moment where the crowd holds its breath and you're the only one who isn't. This is the story of what happened at the Stuffy Graf Stadium on June 18, 2026. This is the story of a 21-year-old who was supposed to lose and instead wrote herself into the history books one more time. Stay until the end, because where this story goes next will leave you speechless.
I told myself that she's fighting back, but I'm also a fighter, so I have to try. I have to try and I have to give her a hard time. So yeah, you know, Donna is an incredible player, and she's been showcasing it a lot lately, and every time I play her, it's been very difficult. So I had a lot of expectations for this match in terms of the level that I had to bring, and I'm happy with the intensity today. Yeah.
Serve.
I think after 1 point, even especially if she wins it in a winner, you just have to recollect, especially if it's a return, and forget the last point and stay in the moment. And I decide before I serve.
Before we talk about what happened in Berlin, you need to understand what it took to even get there. Alexandra Eala was born on May 23, 2005, in Quezon City, Philippines. That detail matters more than it sounds, because the Philippines is not traditionally a tennis nation. There are no iconic grass courts baking in the summer sun the way they exist in England. There are no dedicated academies producing generations of WTA stars. There is no long line of Filipino women who came before her and said, "Look, this path exists, this is how it is done." There was nothing, until there was Eala.
Tell you what, we have some good Filipino whānau in the building tonight, ladies and gentlemen. How special is a night like this for you, my friend?
It's so special, and if there's one thing I've learned in 2025, it's that home is a people and not a place. So thank you, everyone. Maraming salamat.
Donna is a great player. She's achieved so much in her career, so you always knew that you were going to be pushed right through. What are you most proud about in your performance and most happy within that win?
Like you said, she's such an experienced player and super talented and definitely very decorated. So I really had a tough time today, but I'm most happy about being able to compete and show up at a level like this, especially after such a tough preseason and so many things that's happened over the past month. So I'm proud about that, yeah.
You create the atmosphere, you bring the people into the stadium as well, and you are safe and through to the next round, my friend. A massive congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, it's Alex Eala.
And what a win for the young 20-year-old. Like that line, home is the people and not the place. And I'm guessing that Alex Eala will be back on center court, and there'll be a big crowd supporting her for her.
Her journey started the way so many extraordinary careers do, with a quiet, unshakable belief in a child who simply refused to accept the ceiling the world had placed above her. She left the Philippines as a teenager to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Think about the weight of that decision for a moment. A young girl from Southeast Asia, thousands of miles from home, grinding on the same clay courts where champions are made, betting everything on a future nobody could guarantee. And it worked. In 2020, at just 14 years old, she won the Australian Open junior doubles title.
Career. Maybe you take this micro and I grab another one.
That's that's a hard question to answer. A couple hundred for sure. I think maybe, yeah, a couple hundred. I've been playing tennis for 17 years, so very, very long time.
Yeah, same name, Alexandra, and she asked for your favorite color. So say purple, say purple.
Okay. Purple. You like purple?
No, be honest.
Okay,
Sorry.
no. My favorite color is pink. Do you like pink? Do you like pink? Anyone else like pink? Blue? I love blue also. Do you like purple?
Okay. Rainbow colors.
Rainbow colors.
Yeah. Okay, so another question.
Yes,
Do you have a favorite flower?
I do. And rainbows. I love beanies.
A year later, she won the Roland Garros junior title. The world of professional tennis started to take notice. But junior titles and professional success are two completely different worlds. And for years, the gap between Eala's obvious talent and her WTA results felt frustratingly wide. Fans watched, they believed, they waited. Then came 2025, and Miami. As a wild card, a player who didn't even earn direct entry into the main draw, Eala walked into the Miami Open and did something that still doesn't feel entirely real. She beat number 5 Madison Keys. Then she beat number 2 Iga Swiatek. She reached the semifinals of a WTA 1000 tournament, becoming the first Filipino in history to do so, and the first to break into the WTA Top 100. The Philippines erupted. Manny Pacquiao comparisons started circulating. Forbes Asia named her one of their 30 under 30 icons. Nike gifted her a hair tie in the shape of a sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, for her Wimbledon debut. She wasn't just a tennis player anymore. She was a symbol. By March 2026, she had climbed to a career high ranking of number 29 in the world, the highest any Filipino woman had ever been ranked in the 51-year history of the WTA. By the time she arrived in Berlin for the 2026 WTA 500 Berlin Tennis Open, she was ranked number 35, had already won the Birmingham Open title on grass, and was being talked about as a genuine Wimbledon seeding candidate. She entered Berlin on a wild card. She entered Berlin as someone the sport was watching. And her first-round opponent was the woman who had just won Queen's Club in London 6 days earlier. So yes, everything was on the line, and it always had been. But here's what made this match even more complicated, because of who was standing on the other side of the net. Let's be absolutely clear about something. If you had walked into the stuffy Graf Stadion on June 18, 2026, and asked any tennis analyst, any coach, any seasoned commentator who they expected to win, the answer would have been the same every single time: Donna Vekic. And honestly, they wouldn't have been wrong to say so. Vekic is 29 years old, Croatian, a career that reads like a greatest hits collection of near misses and breathtaking moments. She reached the Wimbledon semifinals in 2024. She won an Olympic silver medal at the Paris Games that same year. She has a career high ranking of number 17. She has 5 WTA singles titles and a playing style built for the speed and bounce of grass courts: aggressive, flat, relentless off both wings. And the week before Berlin, she had just done something remarkable. Vekic arrived at the HSBC Championships at Queen's Club in London as a lucky loser, not even a direct entry, a player who had lost in qualifying but got into the main draw because someone else withdrew. From that position, ranked number 76 in the world at the time, not expected to make noise, she proceeded to dismantle some of the most recognizable names in women's tennis. She beat former British number 1 Katie Boulter, she beat former world number 1 Karolina Pliskova, and in the final, she beat Emma Raducanu, the 2021 US Open champion, playing in front of her home crowd, to claim her first WTA title of 2026 and her 5th career singles crown. The crowd at Queen's gave her a standing ovation. Social media lit up. The story of the lucky loser who became champion traveled around the world. Then she took a plane to Berlin. She arrived late Sunday night. She had barely rested, she had barely practiced on the Berlin surface, and she was supposed to be riding the kind of momentum that is nearly impossible to stop. Her head-to-head record against Eala coming in told you everything about how the tennis world saw this matchup. Vekic led 1-0. Their only previous main draw meeting at the ASB Classic in Auckland in January 2026 had gone to Eala in a 3-set thriller. But Vekic had also beaten her at the exhibition Koyan Classic. The sense was that Vekic, when fully locked in, was a level above where Eala currently sat. And on grass, with Wimbledon weeks away, with that Queen's title still glowing around her like a halo, the experts said Vekic wins this, it won't even be close. But sometimes, the scoreboard has other ideas. And what unfolded on that Berlin court for the next hour and 42 minutes was something nobody in that stadium will forget anytime soon.
The match began the way the experts predicted it would. Vekic came out swinging. She broke Eala's serve in the second game of the first set and raced to a 2-0 lead. For a moment, it looked like the analysts were right. Vekic was sharp, aggressive, her ball striking crisp from the very first exchange. The grass was fast. The conditions suited her game. And Eala, entering her first ever Berlin Open on a surface she had only recently begun to master, looked like she was going to be overwhelmed before the match had even found its rhythm. But then something shifted. Eala broke back immediately. Then she broke again. Suddenly she was leading 3-2. The crowd, which had expected a routine Vekic cruise, started paying attention. Something was happening on this court that you couldn't quite explain but absolutely could feel. Back and forth they went. Vekic broke to lead 4-3. Eala broke again. Then Vekic surged to lead 5-4, and for the second time in the set, it seemed like the Croatian had seized control. Eala had saved 12 of 14 breakpoints across the entire match, but the first set was becoming a psychological tug-of-war that could have snapped in either direction. What happened at 5-5 was the moment this match turned into something special. Eala produced a drop shot, perfectly weighted, landing right at Vekic's feet, and followed it with a scorching backhand down the line that left Vekic stranded. She broke to lead 6-5 and served out the first set, 7-5, an hour and 3 minutes of tennis that had swung like a pendulum, but Eala had the set. The second set told a different story. Eala came out transformed. She broke Vekic's first service game and held her own to race to 2-0. The change in energy was palpable. Where the first set had been a street fight, the second set felt like Eala had made a decision, a quiet, internal decision that she was taking this match. She moved to 4-2, then 5-3. She was serving for the match. And here is where the story gets almost unbearable. Vekic fought back. She unleashed consecutive return winners and clawed her way to a 0-40 lead on Eala's serve. 3 breakpoints, 3 chances to drag the match back into uncertainty. The momentum, that invisible electric thing that decides matches, was swinging toward Vekic. And Eala stood at the baseline, bounced the ball, and made a decision. "I told myself that she's fighting back," Eala said afterward, "but I'm also a fighter, so I have to try." She saved the first breakpoint, then the second, then the third. And then, in one of the most composed closing sequences of her career, she fired 3 consecutive serves that Vekic simply could not touch. 8 aces in the match total. A serving performance that silenced every critic who had spent the week questioning whether her serve was good enough for this level. 7-5, 6-4. Alex Eala. History, once again, made. But what does that scoreline actually mean? Because the numbers are one thing. The context is something else entirely.
Let's slow down for a moment, because in the rush to talk about what comes next, it's easy to miss the weight of what just happened. Alex Eala is now 3-0 in her head-to-head against Donna Vekic. 3 matches, 3 wins. Against a player who is an Olympian, a Grand Slam semifinalist, and the reigning champion of one of the most prestigious grass court events on the WTA calendar. That is not a fluke. That is a pattern. That is a player who has figured out how to beat someone significantly more experienced than she is, and who keeps proving it, over and over, on bigger and bigger stages. But zoom out further, because the Vekic win in Berlin is not just about one match. It is the latest chapter in a story of firsts that has been unfolding in slow motion for the past 18 months. In 2025, Eala became the first Filipino to reach a WTA 1000 semifinal, at Miami, as a wildcard, beating a top 5 and a top 2 player back-to-back. She became the first Filipino to break into the WTA top 100. She won her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. In 2026, she became the first Filipino to break into the top 50, then the top 40, then the top 30. Her career high of number 29 in the world, achieved in March 2026, made her the highest-ranked Filipino woman in the 51-year history of the WTA rankings. She has beaten Iga Swiatek, then the world number 2. She has beaten Coco Gauff, then ranked number 4. She has beaten Madison Keys, ranked number 5. She is now 3-0 against Donna Vekic, ranked number 33, and a grass court champion. Every single one of those victories is a territory that Philippine tennis had never entered before. And here is the detail that makes Berlin feel different from the others. Eala arrived not as a wild card scrapping for survival, but as a wild card with a Birmingham title already in her bag, with a 7-2 record on grass in recent weeks, with the quiet confidence of a player who has started to understand that grass, fast, unforgiving, rewards the bold grass, might actually be her surface. Former world number 9 Andrea Petkovic had publicly identified Eala's serve as the biggest obstacle between her and the sport's elite, saying it was very inconsistent and very attackable on second balls. Against Vekic in Berlin, Eala fired 8 aces, committed only 2 double faults, and saved 12 of 14 breakpoints. She didn't just win the match, she answered the critics point by point, ace by ace. And the Philippines watched every second of it. Fans streamed the match in Manila and Cebu and Davao. Social media lit up with the kind of collective joy that only sport can generate. This was not just a tennis result. This was a nation watching one of its own refuse, again and again and again, to accept the boundaries the world had drawn for her. And now, just when you thought the story couldn't raise the stakes any higher,
It does. Alex Eala's next opponent in Berlin is Elena Rybakina, world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, the 2026 Australian Open champion, one of the most complete grass court players the women's game has produced in a decade. They have met once before, in Rome, on clay, just 5 weeks ago. Rybakina won 6-4, 6-3 in 93 minutes. She broke Eala's serve 4 times. She won 73% of her first serve points. It was, by every measure, a dominant performance. But here is what makes the Berlin rematch genuinely fascinating. First, the surface. Rome was clay, where Rybakina's heavy ball and deep ground strokes had time to build pressure. Berlin is grass, fast, low-bouncing, punishing for any player whose serve isn't performing. On grass, Eala's first strike aggression, her low center of gravity, and her ability to take the ball early and redirect pace become weapons rather than liabilities. Second, Rybakina's form. Despite being ranked number 2 in the world, she arrives in Berlin with a 5-5 record in her last 10 matches. She lost at the French Open. She lost at Queen's to Katie Boulter, landing only 52% of first serves and committing 6 double faults in that defeat. Unusually shaky numbers for a player whose serve is supposed to be her greatest asset. Third, Eala's momentum. She has won 7 of her last 9 matches on grass. She has a Birmingham title. She beat Vekic in one of her most complete serving performances of the season. She is playing with a freedom and a belief that looks entirely different from the player who entered Miami as an unknown wildcard just 14 months ago. A victory over Rybakina would likely be, by every measurable standard, the biggest singles win in the history of Philippine tennis. It would almost certainly push Eala inside the top 25 in the world rankings, and with Wimbledon beginning on June 29th, it would position her as a genuine seeding contender, meaning she could avoid the top 8 players until the later rounds of the most prestigious Grand Slam on earth. The story that started in Quezon City, that passed through Mallorca and Miami and Guadalajara and Birmingham and now Berlin, it is arriving at a moment that feels too significant to fully comprehend in real time. Because here's the truth about Alex Eala that the scorecards and ranking numbers can only partially capture. She's 21 years old. She is ranked number 35 in the world. She's the highest-ranked Filipino in the history of her sport. And she is, by every indication, still nowhere near her ceiling. The best analysts on tour describe her game as perfectly architected for grass. The first strike aggression, the flat, early ball ground strokes, the return positioning, the composure and closing moments that you simply cannot teach. That thing she showed at 0-40 in Berlin when she bounced the ball, made a decision, and served 3 winners in a row without blinking. She is not just surviving at this level anymore. She is competing. She is winning. She is rewriting what is possible for a generation of Filipino kids who are watching her and doing the calculation, the beautiful, radical calculation, that maybe the ceiling they were told existed doesn't actually exist at all.
What happened in Berlin on June 18, 2026, was not just a tennis match. It was a statement. A 21-year-old from Quezon City walked onto a grass court in Germany and beat the reigning champion of one of the most prestigious tournaments in women's tennis. She did it with 8 aces. She did it by saving 12 of 14 breakpoints. Became the moment. Alex Eala is not a prospect anymore. She is not a wildcard story. She is not a feel-good narrative that tennis fans follow until the draw gets too hard. She is a genuine contender, on grass, on this tour, in this era. And the best of her career is still somewhere ahead of her, waiting to be unlocked. So here's the question that should be living rent-free in your mind right now. We've watched her beat Swiatek, beat Goff, beat Keys, beat Vekic. We've watched her make history so many times it is starting to feel almost routine. How far can Alex Eala actually go? And more importantly, are you ready to watch her find out? If this story gave you chills, if you believe in what Alex Eala represents, not just for Philippine tennis, but for every kid from a country that was never supposed to produce a world-class tennis star, hit subscribe right now. We cover every chapter of this journey, every match, every milestone, every moment that matters. The story is not over. It is just getting started, and you do not want to miss what comes next.